Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talks with The Real Deal. I want to especially thank our sponsor for this, Burden Accounting. If you need any accounting help, those guys are the best. I am telling you this not because they're our sponsors, but because they're our sponsors and they are really, really good. John, I'm sure you need some accounting help for one of your many companies. You should really check out Burden for some of your stuff.
Well, the truth is we have a lot of companies and sometimes we spread the business around. So if they're good accountants, we always want to see them.
You're good accountants.
Especially if they're friends of yours.
Yeah, no, they're good. And, they make shows like this possible. Sponsoring these programs allows us to produce these and get information out to people. Our guest today, it doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'm going to give one anyways. John Catsimatidis. John started his company with one grocery store at the age of 24 years old. And by the time he was 26 years old, he made personally his first $1 million, and now he's officially a billionaire.
I got to correct you.
Go ahead.
I started it in my senior year in college, about 20 years old, 21, and I made my first $1 million by 24.
And when did you make your first billion?
The first billion, let me think. I would say by the age of about 35.
Oh my goodness. And this was before all the tech craze where people would come out with no product and become billionaires. You had
I remember, Amir, in the 1980s and 1990s, people would put .com on the name just to be, people would say, oh, it must be worth at least 100 million. It says .com on it.
They were just trying to be tech savvy. I remember the first email I got was with AOL. But John, thank you so much for being here. John, you have 8,000 employees. You are the largest grocery chain in New York. You have an oil refinery. You have an aviation company. You're a conglomerate, and I'm always fascinated by your business because it feels like you still run the whole thing like a mom and pop shop. I know that your son is involved. I know your daughter's involved to some degree.
They're good kids, and I tell them if a bus hits me, you're in charge.
John, hopefully a bus won't hit you, but this, I want to talk to you. Normally when we do these conversations, it's about development, it's about real estate, but you come from a very unique place. You're from New York, you have businesses in New York. Do you see any comparisons to what's happening today with all the chaos that's going on in the 1970s where you were living through?
Amir, I am shocked what's going on right now. I remember in 1988, I moved to Fifth Avenue. Yeah. One of these nice Fifth Avenue apartments. Right. That's almost, how many years ago? 32 years ago. And not only did we have a doorman, we had an armed security guard.
In 1988, on Fifth Avenue?
88. It was during the times of my friend and he's still my friend, David Dinkins was mayor. Yeah. But things were bad in the streets.
Right.
And right now, we're almost getting back to that point. It is horrible. The numbers in the last 60 days, the police department is horrified what's going on. We are competing with Chicago on having the most murders on a weekend. So I think the mayor has to realize what's going on. Look, I know the mayor a long time. He's a smart guy. I know him a long time. He has to realize what's going on and he's got to take better command and ask his police officers to take better command.
I think one of the big problems that I'm seeing, and I'm talking to developers like yourself and investors like yourself all the time, and one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing is people in your position actually stepping up, trying to make real change. I'm not talking about $5,000 checks to the city council people. I'm talking about people with real ideas stepping forward and sharing their ideas on how they could fix things.
When I was running for mayor in 2013, only 6 years ago, the budget was $70 billion.
Yeah.
So we went from $70 billion to $97 billion. Cranes, your competitor Cranes, ran an article today. We may have to lay off 22,000 people. But they didn't say the fact that 35,000 people have been added.
Yeah. You didn't mention that.
So that's a scary number. 35,000 people have been added. So well, maybe that was a wrong number to add 35,000 people.
This is city employees.
And so the 22,000 you're laying off is the people that you added.
Yeah. So this is the city employees you're referring to.
The city went from 270,000 employees over 300,000.
And do you think one of the problems that people like, I mean, you actually ran for mayor, and are you thinking about running?
I ran for mayor in 2013, and there's no incumbent this year. I'm considering running again, but I'd rather have a more qualified person, but I'm prepared to run if we don't have the right person running.
From the people who are running right now, you got Sean Donovan, Eric Adams, Stringer. From the people who are running right now, who is your favorite right now?
Well, it's the thing. With all the stuff going on with the statues and the rioting, I would say to you, you pick your favorite, because who has the courage to stand up against those rioters? Who has the courage to stand up and say, you cannot take those statues down?
Right.
If the people of New York don't like a statue, let's talk about it, and maybe we'll put it in the museum. We're not, I had a radio show the other night, and you know what it's called? Barbarians at the Gate.
Yeah.
In other words, are you guys going to come in and just try to change our way of life in America? You want to change our way of life in New York? Well, hell no. Whom do you trust? Everybody trusted Bill de Blasio to do the right thing. Everybody trusted Hasty to do the right thing. And look what we got in Albany. We got bail reform, where the people carrying guns and holding up our stores and holding up our buildings get to go home before the police that arrested them get to go home. If you don't have the courage to stand up because you don't think you'll get the votes, or you think they're going to talk badly about you, then you shouldn't run.
And yet nobody wants to say a single word to these politicians. Everybody's so scared to say anything remotely affecting a council member because they think it's going to impact their development or it's going to impact their building in some way, which I really don't understand that.
Well, there's a lot of council members that have a lot of common sense. The mayor is a smart guy. I know him 25 years, like I said. A lot of them, Scott Stringer is a smart guy. But besides being smart, you have to have the courage to stand up against things that are wrong.
What do you think the real estate community can do? Obviously, housing is an issue. Affordable housing is an issue. These people are, again, some of the most invested people in the city. What can they do, short of writing checks to politicians? What else can they do?
Well, I think they have to be able to write up to the right politicians. I once went to a REBNY meeting, a Real Estate Board of New York, and they said that, I remember the number, 62% of all contributions in New York City, New York State, are real estate and real estate related.
Yeah.
So the real estate industry does have the power to cut out the people that don't have courage.
Well, then you have situations like with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, you had the Wall Street crowd helping her competitor and feeding her money. But AOC managed to raise $8 million more than her competitor just through very small funds. So even though those contributions from the real estate community and related companies add up to 62%, there's still a very strong silent majority that when they come together, they can be very forceful. And right now, they're looking for leadership. And the first leaders that show up right now, they have to be very progressive to get there.
You need three things. You need leadership ability, you need the guts to do it, and you need the money.
So you're thinking about running again. Outside of yourself, who do you think are some real community leaders and business leaders that could be running for mayor that you think would make good mayors for New York City? Like
I said previously in the press, we're thinking of starting a committee to evaluate it. And I am disappointed. Some of our current politicians have not stood up and said, you're wrong. But I understand. I spoke to Judge Weinberg this morning, who's our general counsel, used to work for Peter Vallone.
Yeah.
He was general counsel of Peter Vallone. He was speaker of it. And I spoke to a few other people. I understand a council person two council people in Brooklyn. Was it Carnegie?
Yeah.
And
what did they say?
That stood up and say, these Black Lives Matter people don't speak for me.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up in Harlem.
Yeah.
I grew up in Harlem. And I will tell you something. These Black Lives people don't speak for the residents of Harlem.
Mm-hmm. You believe
they want to be able to dial 911, and they want peace and tranquility. They don't want the crazies on the street. You went from 10,000 people on Rikers Island down to 3,000. You know what happened to the other 7,000 or ever the 5,000? On the streets of New York. When you had rioting, when you had people breaking windows in stores, don't you think there's the 3,000 or 4,000 that were from Rikers Island that were put on the streets? And what the state did was twice as bad with bail reform, because they took all the power away from the judges. What I would have done if I was mayor with the rioting, I would have ordered the police department, arrest those people that are rioting, put them at Rikers, put them wherever you want to put them, and lose the key for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Things will quiet down in about 2 days.
Right. And so when you talk to these council people and you suggest some of your ideas, what is the feedback that they give you?
I had one on my radio show last night, Councilman Holden, common sense. You know, Councilman Carnegie, common sense.
And so what are they saying? That what do you think is, do you think they're...
Well, there's a group
of
militants in the city council that are driving our city to go the wrong direction. And they're going to drive tourism out. They're going to drive businesses out. And, you know, the people in Florida, they laugh at us.
It's funny because the developer in Miami told me that every month since de Blasio became mayor, he's been sending him fruit baskets because of the amount of people coming from New York.
You know, we joke about it, but it's true. It is true. It is, you know, look, I'm not against Democrats. I was a Democrat.
Sure.
And I was a Bill Clinton Democrat, common sense. Okay? And the fact is, we have Democrats in Florida, but they're common sense Democrats. We're building in St. Petersburg. So being pro-business, you have common sense.
Right.
Because businesses create the jobs.
100%. But here's the thing. So in St. Petersburg, I just want to get this out there. So you managed to get the highest amount of financing for the city of St. Petersburg. I think it was for $300 million in financing you got for that project. You're still moving forward with that project.
Yes. We slowed it up. We slowed it up a couple of months. And on my radio show, there was riots in Tampa last week. And I have the mayor of Tampa going to be on my radio show Sunday.
I want to know, when you talk to some of these guys, what is their feedback when they see the riots, or when some of the suggestions that you have? What is the feedback from some of these guys?
The feedback is, if you don't like a statue, you don't allow the barbarians just to tear it down.
Right.
That's the destruction of civilization.
Right.
You don't like a statue. I may agree with you. I don't like that statue being in Central Park. So maybe it should be in a museum.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be located someplace else.
Yeah.
But not allow the rioters to go down and tear it down.
You know, I'm curious, right now, the way things are going in New York, I'm talking to other developers, and they're sort of cool on reinvesting in New York right now. They want to see where things land, who's going to be the next mayor. And
I'll tell you what our policy is. We were going to press forward with a lot of projects. We slowed it up.
Why?
Why? For whom do the bells toll? Mm-hmm. You know, it's just, look, people take an attitude, New York is New York. That's my attitude. I love New York. I'm here. And I always, in the last 50 years, I've always seen New York recover. But I think the key thing is you need the right next mayor.
Let me ask you, if AOC runs for mayor, do you think she'll win?
If she runs and she has a chance of winning, I'm definitely moving.
So you will after 50 years, you will move if it came down to it.
You know, I keep hearing that thing, come on down.
Come on down to Miami. What do you think she's doing that's resonating so well? And why do you think that it's allowed to happen?
I think she's 100% wrong. I think socialism, no matter, show me one successful socialist country. Venezuela was the most successful country in South America. So 20 years ago, they turned to socialism.
Well, I don't think she's talking, look, I'm not in agreement with her in any way, but I don't think she's talking about being like Venezuela. I think she's talking about more like being like Spain or Italy and having, healthcare and, a lot of stuff available to you that should be available because of the taxes that people pay.
If you were sick in whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Spain, or whether you're in Canada, you know who they come to see the right doctors?
In New York.
New York. Okay?
There is a lot of money spent on healthcare, and there's no reason for it not to be more available to more people.
Anytime anybody walks into the emergency ward and they need healthcare, they get it. It's all BS. There's nobody that's sick in New York or in our country that doesn't get the right health care.
A lot of people that would argue with you on that point, but you're right. I mean, as far as...
I welcome them. I welcome them to stand on stage and argue with me.
That's fair enough.
I welcome it. I love it.
We might have to arrange that.
I welcome it. When we get back to normal, you can set up the stage.
Just talking about solutions, what do you think next steps are for New York? I mean, obviously, you're heavily invested in this city. What do you think the next steps are? And what can the real estate community do to sort of calm some of these problems that we're having?
Control that 62% of money and make sure it goes to the people that have respect for law and order, that have respect for our city.
John, thank you so much for your time. And
Amir, thank you so much. I enjoy reading your magazine. I enjoy reading, being with you all the time. And God bless you. And
I had so many people to ask you about Gristedes, about how your business was doing, especially during the pandemic. I shop at Gristedes, and it's amazing.
I need the business.
Yeah, what's that? You're in a good business.
I know. I need the business.
No, but this, a lot of people don't know this, but you're one of the first people to have, full-time delivery from your grocery stores to people's homes. And this was like in the 80s, I believe, right? In the 80s.
Yes, I know. We were the first people in 1970. We cashed more. I used to advertise. We cashed more checks than Citibank does.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you again, John. I hope to see you soon under different circumstances.
Thank you, Amir.
All right.
Look
cheers.
forward.
Thank you again to our sponsors, Burton Accounting. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Send them to see me.
All right, great. I will. Thank you. Bye. Thanks, John.